Hey guys, thank you for joining me today. I want to run you through how to skyrocket your conversion rate through the act of problem solving. Now, this is for people that are running e-commerce stores, whether you're dropshipping, you run your own brand, but this will allow you to understand how to analyze your conversion rate. So if you're currently on a 1%, for example, and you can move it to a 2%, that is a doubling of sales right there. And then again, if you move it to 3 or 4%, that's an increase in those sales, an increase in that average order value, and a more profitable store that you're going to be able to run. So we want to look at the funnel essentially. So we want to look at our store as a bit of a funnel. So I've put it in, as you know, the further you go down a sales funnel, the less kind of activity happens. So what I mean by that is, first of all, you start with your Facebook ad, you're going to reach a lot of people. Then you're going to bring people to your landing page. Then most people will be adding to the cart before they initiate checkout. Then they're going to initiate the checkout and then finally go for a purchase. And you'll find that the numbers kind of not halve, but they'll probably decrease as you go through this. And I've got some examples a bit later on that we can run through. But one way of actually diagnosing like a low conversion rate is looking at the ecom funnel as a bit of a puzzle. And what you want to do is look at each part of the puzzle in its own individuality. So each step of that puzzle, we want to look at it, we want to pick it apart and understand it step by step. So I've broken this down for you in each step and what type of things you can look out for to improve that conversion rate. So let's go through it now. So first of all, you've got your Facebook ad. This is the cold traffic. This is where you usually get the traffic from, where you control it. So you pay for this traffic and you tell it where to go. We're going to say in this instance it's a Facebook ad, but you can use TikTok, you've got Instagram, you've got Pinterest, you've got Snapchat, all of the different paid media platforms that you have. Even it could be organic that push people through to the website. But mainly people in e-commerce, you're going to most likely be having Facebook ad as one of your tools. And like I say, you can replicate this to a TikTok ad, an Instagram ad, etc. Facebook and Instagram are kind of the same thing anyway. But what you want to do, if this is the part of the puzzle that seems to be a lower pusher of the traffic, we want to go through and analyze that Facebook ad. So inside an ad, there generally is 3 components. You've got the hook, you've got the content, and the call to action. Hook is that first 1 to 3 seconds that stops the scroll. As people are flicking through on social media, they're not there to look at ads, and that's the reason why we need to make it so it catches their attention. And also, and this is why a big thing of UGC at the moment and user-generated content is what I mean by that, is that it looks natural in the feed and people accidentally start watching it, not realizing it's an ad, and then they get captivated by the creative. And this is why UGC creators are also on the rise, is because in this environment at the moment, UGC is kind of the winning formula. But what you want to do is split it into 3 sections. So the hook, the content, and the call to action. The hook is that first 1 to 3 seconds to stop the scroll on the platform. That's when we've caught their attention and now they're kind of a little bit invested, so they start watching the content. Inside the content is where you're going to have like a before and after if it's a product. Maybe in the service, you can explain exactly what it is that you do. And then you want to show the kind of benefits of using your product or service. And then we want to move to the call to action. So this has to kind of be quite entertaining, grip the attention, keep people focused and give them the message and make sure it's very easy to explain. In the call to action, we're essentially telling them what are the next steps. Mainly on an ad, you're telling them to go to your website. You could be putting your offer there. You could be explaining exactly what it is that you do and why the benefits are going to be there. But then that call to action is there to say, go to our website to then purchase the product or look at the sale now. That kind of gives you your 3 elements of the Facebook ad, and you can pick that apart like a bit of a puzzle. And so if any part of that isn't working, you'll find that like the hook is going to be that first 1 to 3 seconds. The content is the main bulk of it, and the call to action is probably going to be in the last 5 seconds. Moving on, after you've got your Facebook ad down, we'll then be looking at the lander and the product page with the offer. So when the traffic has moved, you've taken them from Facebook, you've brought them to your lander. Then what we want to do is present them with an irresistible offer. This is something that your target market or audience are just absolutely craving for. Like they will say yes to this time and time again, because you'll notice if the offer isn't good enough, it's just not going to convert. Even when the offer is fantastic, what we notice is free plus shipping offers completely convert because they only have to pay, say, £4 for the postage when the item cost is covered in that. And then they usually convert quite heavily off of that. And that's even with just an okay Facebook ad. So as long as the offer is really key for your niche, then it's most likely going to convert. What you also want to do is check out the product images. Because what you want it to do is when someone's buying a product, they have to imagine using the product. They have to envisage what it's like to hold this product or use this product. And then we want to make that very clear on that lander, exactly what it is that they're getting, what it looks like in use, and how it's going to be beneficial to them. And we can have benefits alongside the product before we add the add to cart button. Generally, you can show a problem versus solution. This is extremely good in the product space to kind of be showing, well, here are the problems that you have, and here's the problems that this solves, and what the solution is now going to look like after you use our product. This is really kind of key to show the customer exactly what it is they're buying and why they would buy it. Next, we also have social proof. So people buy things that everybody else is buying. If everybody else is doing it, the kind of herd mentality of human beings is to follow that. So it has got loads of testimonials on social proof. This was fantastic. Imagine that it's a hairspray, for example. Oh my God, it holds my hair up for hours on end. It's much better than the other products that are out there. It's fantastic. That's the kind of thing we need to look. And when we've got all of these things together, you'll be able to see a massive kind of increase in that conversion rate. But the conversion rate is split down into a few different sections. So we've got the add to cart, the initiate checkout before we get to purchase. But we can see that, for example, if we're using Shopify, we can see the percentage of people that then go from this lander and move to the add to cart button. So they've got the product and they click, I want to add this to my cart. When they add it to the cart, there's usually sometimes after this position, you can get a bit of drop off. So we want to look at this piece of the puzzle, make sure that we're doing all of these things correctly, and then see what it looks like of our add to cart. I've got some working examples down here for you in a minute. But with our add to cart, we want to check really, really simple things can actually make a huge difference. So for example, making sure that it works correctly. This is something you want to test correctly. Make sure that actually everything is working as it should, because you'd be surprised that this can really hinder your conversion rate if, for example, an app just doesn't work when you click add to cart. You think it's great and it's all fine, you've tested it, but then actually when somebody else tests it, uses a mobile site, this add to cart button actually doesn't bring the customer through. And that's something that you just want to check. Sounds really simple, but it is something that people oversee. Then you want to make sure that your offer, so for example, if you've got a 30% off offer, if you add to the cart, you want to make sure this is calculating correctly, because it can be situations where maybe the system doesn't function as it should, and then that offer doesn't come through, and then the customer sees the 100% value of the product instead of that discounted rate, and actually they get put off and they jump off. And then also we want to have a look at upsells and downsells. So sometimes these can work, sometimes they might not, and that's one of the things that we also want to look at, is in that process that everything is going as planned, so that it is working as it should. When we do upsells, we want to make it very clear, very simple, that, for example, if you use the app one-click upsell, that when somebody clicks that, it does give them the correct upsell. Sometimes there has been issues in the past that we've experienced where our conversion rates massively dropped from, say, 4% down to a 1%. And then actually when we go into the test and we actually look and we add the product ourselves and click add to cart, that actually it's not been working. And the upsell has been incorrectly firing. And therefore, after we fix this, again, we suddenly see this massive uptake of sales, and our conversion rate moves from that 1% in the negative area up to the 3 and 4%. So these are the things that you want to make sure, because this is like a step-by-step process that someone gets seen by your Facebook ad, they then move to the product lander, and then they're going to most likely add that product to the cart. As long as that offer is good enough, the images are clear, that you can see there's a problem versus solution, and there's social proof around the product. After they've added to cart, this is going to pull you to your initiate checkout. So what you want to make sure here, and again, these are small little things, small little details that really have a massive impact, like fast load times. If, for example, there is even a 5 to 10 second load of the add to cart to initiate checkout, people will drop off. People are so fickle when it comes to e-commerce. They just want their product now and they want the problem solved. If there's anything that causes friction within that situation, then they're most likely to drop off. You want to make sure that your costs are correct. And what I mean by this is, for example, like I said, if you're giving a discount, make sure that it comes through correctly. If you've said it's free shipping, but then there's $2.99 on the shipping, people get really put off by that, a bit hurt, and then they'll leave and they'll just not continue their product journey and they won't purchase. And also, a little bit of a detail is the secure checkout. What you'll find is make sure that you protect your domain and that you get the little padlock icon at the top of your screen, making sure that this site is secure, because people get really put off. There's a lot of stigma around online shopping where people sometimes say it's spammy, it's insecure, especially kind of in the older generation. They're not comfortable with being online. So we want to make sure that it's a secure checkout. And this can also lead back to the actual labeling of the button. So if it says secure checkout, they're more likely to actually check out if it just says initiate checkout. That little change in those words is a huge difference in conversion rate, and we have seen it. There was one time that we did say something like add to cart or go to checkout, and then we just changed those words from our testing phase, and then suddenly, just by changing it to secure checkout or like priority checkout, it literally increased that conversion rate by nearly double. It was an insane result just by changing a few words, and then that's when you're going to get your purchase. So these are the kind of things to look out for when you go through this puzzle and understand that. And I'll show you this in practice and exactly what it kind of looks like. So, for example, if you want to see and analyze, let's just use trivial numbers so that you can get an idea of how this works. So if potentially you've got an issue with your add to cart to initiate checkout, you can see it like this. Let's put some real numbers in there. So let's, for example, say you're getting 100,000 reach on your Facebook ad. Then you're getting a 1% click-through rate, which means that you're getting 1,000 people to the landing page. That's kind of an average in e-commerce. You want anything between a 1 to 3% click-through rate. Anything below that, it's the ad probably the low quality and people aren't encouraged to click through, which is then where we go back to hook, content, call to action. So you get everybody onto the lander. That's 1,000 people on the lander, and you're seeing a 10% conversion rate to an add to cart. So 1,000 of those people land on the site, and 10% of them go through and they add to cart, which in e-commerce that's a pretty decent amount. So we then have a look at, okay, well, how many initiated checkout from those 1,000 visits? Well, 3%. Well, that's a big 3 to 1 is quite a difference. And then we look at, okay, well, the purchase conversions are there's 10. So if we look at that journey from add to cart to purchase, we've actually lost. It's now a 1 to 10 ratio. If we go through each step, 3 to 1, around 3 to 1, that's roughly 3 to 1. I say 3.3 to 1. But it's the same principle that funnel, we expect people to kind of drop off as we go through the levels of the funnel. So at the higher end of the funnel, we've got 100,000, and then right at the bottom, we've got 10. So you can see there's drop off each different section. And let's just say that the cost here is 30 purchases. Now, if that would tell me potentially there is an issue at the add to cart to the initiate checkout because there's a 3 to 1 ratio. So how can we increase that? So for example, if there's something wrong with the add to cart, like I said, back up here, we can work on that and implement that. So have a look at these different things. There are other elements that could be at play here, but let's just say, for example, the offer wasn't calculating correctly. We fixed that, implemented it, and just by doing that, if we could increase this, let's just say that we did that and we doubled it. And as long as this stayed the same, that would actually give us 20 conversions because it's a 3 to 1 ratio, right? Which would then in turn, if we can double that just by making a small tweak on that add to cart, we can actually reduce this by half. So that would go down to 15. Why is that the case? Well, because what we've done here is essentially this, we know this works on a 3 to 1 basis, and this was working on 3 to 1. But if we were to increase this by double, so that double the amount of people initiate checkout after adding to cart, we would then allow for double the amount of conversions, because if this is going at a 3 to 1 ratio, that would be the case. And we're still spending the same amount of money to get the same amount of people. So that would decrease our cost by half. These are the small pieces of the puzzle that people don't take into consideration, which actually make a huge impact on results. Let's do another one. So same kind of situation. Let's just say now we have, like we said, that we had the same kind of link of 60 initiate checkouts, 20 conversions. But here what we've done, let's just say we improved that first step. So we improved the Facebook ad. And actually this one was a 2% CTR. So that means we're still reaching 100,000 people, but now because there's a 2% click-through rate, so 2% of our audience click through, they're actually giving us double the amount of traffic for the same price. Let's just say the CPMs, everything was right. Which then means if we kept that 10% conversion rate from the lander to add to carts. We actually now have 200 add to carts. And let's just even say, just for math's sake, it was 200 add to carts, and then 50% of those moved to initiate checkout. That would then give us a better one. And then if it's a 3-to-1, we'd probably have about 30 conversions. And then instead of being 30 up here, this would now be $10 per purchases, or $10 purchases. So what you can see here is really focusing on these individual steps and looking each in their own right. We have the opportunity to really make a difference and push the needle, and we can make a big difference to the conversion rate, make a much better difference to our conversion rate, and then that also means that our cost comes down. So by doing that, we've gone from getting $30 purchases, so that's cost us $30 to acquire a customer, now down to $10, which is incredible. Just by changing one of these pieces of the puzzle, because what we did is we just improved the Facebook ad, which then gave us double the amount of traffic for the same price, which then increases our traffic here, so increases the landing visits, which then, if we kept everything the same, if nothing was changed here, that we then have 10%, so 200 people, and then eventually we get 30 conversions. This is how and why it's so important to look at everything in its own element, give it its own individual focus, and then work on it like it's its own little individual piece of the puzzle. When we do that and we follow all of these steps, that's where we can really increase our profitability. And then when we're scaling, this makes a crazy difference, because it means that now we can get 3 times the amount of purchases, and that means that we can drive 3 times the amount of revenue that we could before. And if we keep iterating like that, we have a fantastic chance of scaling the brand. If you've got any questions, drop the questions down below and I'll answer them for you. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.